us your first thoughts on Scripture.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to First Thoughts, a podcast from First Presbyterian Church of Hastings, where we explore Scripture, faith, and life together in their complexity and beauty. This fall, we are doing a special series on vocation and calling, what it means to live out our faith, not just on Sundays, but in the everyday work that we do, whether you're a teacher or a farmer or a student or an artist or a comedian or an actor. We believe that God can work through all of these kinds of callings. So today's guest is someone who knows how to make people laugh, I think, at the same time. And Nick Hoff is a child of this church and a nationally touring comedian, an actor, and writer who has been featured on Netflix and Sirius XM and stages across the country. But before all that, I think most of you know this, he was a kid growing up right here at First Presbyterian Church of Hastings. Also a star on the speech and debate team in the high school. And there's an award named after you, so I assume you had a great deal of success.
You told me this. I was not aware that there was
Okay,
an
we'll
award.
talk more about that. And someone whose roots in this community still run deep. He comes back nearly every summer and does some touring around Nebraska and stays in his parents' basement, as any good boomerang kid does. In our conversation today, we're going to talk about Nick's journey from Hastings to Hollywood and around the country, and the spiritual power of laughter, and how his faith shapes the way that he approaches his life and his comedy. I hope you'll find it insightful and inspiring and probably funny too.
I hope so.
Yeah,
One of those things.
yeah, let's dive in. So I sent Nick a list of questions, kind of an outline, and we're gonna start on that list, and we'll see how far down it we get and where the conversation goes. But let's start at the beginning, Nick. What was it like growing up in Hastings? What's your earliest memories of the home and your community and this church?
Hastings is the perfect place to grow up. I wish my kids could have the same exact experience as I did growing up. Now we're in Los Angeles. It's different, but I don't even know if my kids were growing up in this town, if it would be the same
Right.
as I had it. In my mind, leaving the house at, 8 in the morning on my bicycle and returning for meals. And that was it. And the parents didn't care. They just said, yeah, you're fine.
Yeah,
Didn't matter. There
and you were,
were no safety concerns,
right?
right? As long as I was just being careful of traffic, that was pretty much it. And so it was an ideal place to grow up. I lived here from age 4 to 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of a couple of memories of Minden, where I lived from like 3 months old to 4. But then most of them here, going to kindergarten, making all my good lifelong friends here, going to church here, exploring the attic up in the church. Have you been up?
Oh, I've been up there.
Is it any safer than it was
Nope.
35 years ago?
And we've actually been doing some work up there. First, we did a huge bat mitigation project last year.
You had bats.
Oh yeah.
Batman?
Uh,
Any Batman?
So when we leave here, go look at the pulpit.
Okay.
There's a little Batman figurine that lives on our pulpit
Okay.
because there was a Sunday that a bat started flying circles around the sanctuary during worship,
Nice.
and everyone stayed calm and it was okay. But then the next Sunday, magically, a small Batman figurine mounted to a little plexiglass base appeared on the pulpit, and somebody had written on the plexiglass base, "Batman will keep you safe from bats."
Wow.
Okay, this was 4 years ago.
You don't know where that came from.
No idea, and to this day, we have not had a bat appear in the sanctuary during worship.
Holy smokes.
So Batman lives on. Holy smokes was the appropriate response. Batman. Yeah. So Batman lives on the pulpit now and keeps
I
us
like
safe
it.
from bats.
I like it. Yeah, there are lots of mysteries here in this
So
church.
huge bat mitigation project. We
Okay.
had people in that, and I was worried sick the entire time they were up there because and they redid all the insulation up there. So
Okay.
now you can't even see where the boardwalk paths are. Like you have to brush the insulation out of the way. It's nicey.
It is. Like, for those of you who not been up there, it is literally just planks of wood with, I think there were railings,
There are railings.
but installed in the 40s or something.
Dodgy railings.
And then if you fall off of these 2 planks of wood, you will fall through the ceiling.
And then all the way to the floor of the
100
sanctuary, which is
feet.
a 30, well, hundreds, a 30, 40-foot drop. But
That's it. 30, 40? You'll be fine. We'll give it a shot.
not landing on the pews, you wouldn't be. But anyway, so you grew up, yeah. So you remember Climbing in the attic, probably.
Climbing in the attic, singing in the choir, probably my comedy, uh, my drive toward comedy made my parents a little upset one day when Dave Ellerby and I were in we were up in the choir loft, and in between we'd be reading Calvin and Hobbes books, just laughing, like elbowing each other, and my parents were just out there seething like they're not paying attention to the sermon.
But you were.
I was reading the sermon of Calvin and Hobbes,
Right.
old Bill Watterson,
Yeah. And Calvin
right?
and
See,
Hobbes,
these
the
are
philosopher.
philosophers, and
Philosophers and theologians.
can't beat that.
Yeah.
See, mom and dad, there you go.
Um, and I understand you had a starring role in one of the children's Christmas pageants.
Probably didn't hurt that my mom was the director.
Possibly.
Look the other way. Yeah, no, Angels Aware. Every single year enjoyed doing that. You still do it, right?
We've done it a few times in my 8.5 years here.
You own the rights now? Are you the only place keeping Angels Aware afloat?
Not only that, we actually had somebody take the the recorded soundtrack of it.
Okay.
You couldn't buy the music anywhere. You could only buy the tracks.
Right.
And then so you had to play the tracks. Somebody took the track and wrote the music, and we did it with a live band the last time we did it. We
Really?
actually had live musicians here playing the music instead of just putting the tracks
That's
on.
pretty cool.
It was
You
awesome.
guys are upping the ante.
We tried.
I'll have to come back around.
We might have to bring you back.
Right.
So I starred in Angels Aware in my childhood church in
This is
Flagstaff,
Flagstaff?
Arizona,
Okay.
as well.
And
so
who did you get to play?
I was Michael.
You were Michael. See, I never got to be Michael. I was Gabriel. I didn't have a low enough voice to be the guy that sang the perfect 10.
I'm hearing a little bit of bitterness still in your voice.
There is. And I didn't go through puberty for many, many years after Angels Aware. So now I could sing the low notes on that song, but it had to be Braden Graham's every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're still carrying that with you.
I am clinging to it. I'm coming for you, Braden.
Well, if we do a restaging of Angels Aware
All right.
and we let adults do it, I will invite you back. You will
Writing
have
up
to
the
come back
contract now, Gregory.
from LA, and I'll let you be Michael.
All right. I'll take it.
So you were also involved in the speech and debate team in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that experience shape you?
Probably, looking back, I think that was probably the most informative thing I did
Okay.
in my entire schooling career. And it came about because I was going through a period of reading John Grisham novels, and I was like, I will be a lawyer, and I will have all these amazing adventures that lawyers often do. And it wasn't until later that I found out, no, lawyers' lives are pretty boring a lot of the time, just reading over and over things. So I thought, okay, what best to do? But I'll do debate. I'll join the debate team. And I think that's what got me to my critical thinking and my ability to speak in front of people. So I think that was probably the best thing I could have done for not only my comedy career, but like going through college, being able to give speeches and things like that. I mean, what better than to sit there and write them out on both sides, have to look at
Right.
both sides of an issue,
Right.
analyze it from all these different counterpoints, and then come up with an eloquent way to say it. And I remember I was a freshman, and I think he was a junior. Eric Cleveland was one of the. I was just bombing. I was not doing well at all. I was maybe winning one match every tournament. I was like, what's going on here? And then Eric came to me and he goes, you should just say it. He goes, what's your argument for this? And I told him, and he goes, you should say it like this. And I said, I would never say it like that. And he goes, that's why you'll never win. And it was at that moment I was like, oh yeah, I can't just say it the way old Nick Hoff, Dumbo freshman would say it. I need to put it in this pretty looking package so that everybody can digest it and also think it sounds good.
Yeah.
So Eric
That's
Cleveland, there you go. Braden Graham's down, Eric Cleveland up so far.
I asked, it was a little personal to ask that question. One, because I did speech and debate in high school.
Yep.
I ended up a preacher. You did speech and debate in high school, and you end up in front of large audiences.
Bringing people towards God, I'm tearing them down.
But also, my daughter just completed her sophomore year at Hastings
Nice.
High, and she's doing speech and debate and went to nationals
Oh, wow.
this year.
So she's great.
She's pretty good at it.
Policy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll accept it.
Were you an LD?
I was LD.
Me too.
All right.
And so she did LD her freshman year, right? And then sophomore year, she did her first tournament in LD, and another girl on their team had gone to debate camp over the summer
Uh-huh.
and learned policy. And she recruited Esther because she needed a
Right.
partner. And they like entered their first tournament and won.
Great.
And then they just won tournament after tournament all year. And I was like, oh, I've lost my daughter to the dark side.
Right, right. Well, they're more organized.
Uh,
They're fast. How do they still speak quickly?
Not as bad as it was as when we were
Okay.
in high school, but yeah. So she went to nationals this year, and I got to judge the policy rounds at nationals, not
Oh, wow.
hers,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And I developed a little more appreciation and
You
respect
can.
for the
All
policy
right.
debaters.
All right. We'll allow it.
Okay, so yeah,
It was great. I loved it. And looking back, I'm surprised I loved it because it's like taking you away on the weekends. You'd go to these
right.
nerd fests. What it is. They used to have a chant. We're not nerds. We fight with words. And I was like, that is maybe the most nerdy thing.
Nerdiest chant you can come up with.
But yeah, so much fun and probably a great thing. I'm sure it's helped you mountains.
Yeah, I when I was at nationals, I was talking to other coaches and kids, and I was like, oh, I use the skills every day, but so do you. So does anyone, really.
Yes.
Because like you said, it's logic, it's reasoning, it's argumentation, it's communication,
Mhm.
all vital skills.
Yeah.
So
And not losing your mind when things aren't going your way.
right.
Right? Being able to still get it in there. So there's an award that I never received, but
Yeah.
there's something.
I texted you about this because I
You
was at
did.
the debate tournament or at the debate awards banquet for the high school debate team, and they announced an award that was named after you.
It's shocking. It's not still Mr. Witt coaching.
No,
No.
no, your legacy even continues beyond that. It's
Whoa.
let's see, here we go. Where is it? The Grand Exalted Sorcerer
That's
Award.
right. Yeah, there was something with that. I can't exactly put my finger on
There's
it.
a hat that goes along with it.
This sounds like me.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I
But
would
like
do.
your name is invoked at the debate banquet at the Hastings High School debate banquet, and somebody gets the Grand Exalted Sorcerer Award.
Is it a good thing?
It's a, or,
The person
I mean,
that got it, are they
well, they
literate?
they acknowledge that this guy was on the high school debate team and then now is doing cool things. And
Okay.
so
Wow.
maybe those that get it are the ones most likely to go do cool things.
I'm gonna come to the award ceremony next year and just hang out.
And maybe we'll do Angels Aware at the same time.
There you go. I can play Michael. I will place the exalted sorcerer's hat upon the next trustee.
Yeah,
And yeah, I like it.
there you go.
Making plans.
All right. That was a diversion, but
Sorry,
it was a
it was only
necessary,
supposed to be 40 minutes.
necessary diversion. So we're going to turn back to comedy, but the question that I wrote, and you can take this any way you want, but when did you realize you were funny or that you wanted to make people laugh for a living? Because that's a thing.
Right. Elementary school, Watson Elementary, sitting at the lunch table. I think, if memory serves me right, I did a Steve Urkel impression, and everybody at the table laughed. And I thought that felt really good. And so from then on, it was just about getting people to laugh. And so I think that was the moment. And it wasn't until much later, I think, in junior high that I realized that was an actual job that someone could have. I think when Seinfeld came on air, it was probably the fifth season or something. So deep, it was 95, I would have been 13. And I was watching the show. My dad was watching, I was watching it with him. And I was like, wait, what does he do? He's a stand-up comedian? That's a thing. Oh, and
Because Seinfeld always opens with a stand-up bit.
he always
and
opens
closes
with stand-up,
bit.
and there are parts in the show where sometimes like I got to go here to do a show, and so it became clear that that was a job that he did, and I think at that moment there was no other choice for me. I think that was it.
That's a strong sense of call. Like you knew what you were going to do, and
yeah.
and you pursued it.
And my friend Jeff Moores at the time was going through this thing where he was saying, if you write down your goals, you're, I don't know what percentage more likely to achieve them. I don't know if he said 90% or whatever it was. So if you write down your goals, you're more likely to achieve them. And so he was writing down on his goals. And so I wrote on a piece of paper, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. And I put it on my wall at home. And I started just like tacking up pictures from magazines and newspapers of everybody I thought was funny around it. And so every day looking at that. I mean, it's sunk in somehow.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff Morris.
Yeah.
Jeff Morris, yes. Braden Grams, no. Eric Cleveland, yes.
Talk to us about your journey from little small town Hastings, Nebraska to where you are today and what you're doing. What were some of the key turning points or challenges you faced or key moments in your career that's gotten you to where you are?
Well, everybody thinks coming from small town to Los Angeles is a huge jump, but either it was me being naive as to the difference or just being so narrow focused on what I wanted. So when I went out there, I wasn't really interested in finding. I graduated from business school. A lot of my friends were getting jobs right out of college, and they were interviewing to get those jobs. And I was just kind of always like, I did a couple interviews, but I was kind of like, no, I'm probably either going to New York or Los Angeles, and I'm going to do comedy. So the job is kind of secondary to what I want to do. And so rather than finding a career and getting so deep into that where I couldn't go back, I thought, no, I'll just get a, kind of a stupid job. And so I moved out there, lived on the floor of a friend, which I don't know how many people would be willing to go live on the floor of a stranger. This guy was what there were two of them, and I won't divulge. I'm going to divulge it. They're not listening to this. One was normal, and the other one was very weird. They were brothers, and one worked nights, one worked days. The day guy was normal, the night guy was weird. And I would wake up in the middle of the night to him just like cooking chicken on a George Foreman grill, just like staring at me on on the floor. And I'm just like, okay, got to get out of here fast. Found a job, and comedy is such a small community. Like people think, oh, Los Angeles is huge, but I shrunk it because I was just going to the same 20 places to do comedy, and I would see the same people at each place. And so it didn't feel like a giant city. It just felt like the same kind of small core, like, oh, these are the people that I see.
Yeah.
These are the places that I go, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Huh. How did your family react to you pursuing comedy as a career? And also how did your church family react? If you have any recollection of that.
I don't have a recollection of the church family reacting to that. I think they probably had some sense that that's what was going to be. And I know my parents knew because they saw the sign on my wall. I'm sure they were nervous and scared. To make it in any artistic field is an endeavor that takes a lot of like hearing no. You get beat down. There's times where I was working for very little money. I always tell people like people that have a job and they get a W-2. I think most people that's a sense of comfort. They know where their paycheck is coming from. They know how much it'll be. To me, that was always terrifying because I was like, oh, that's my limit. That's what I know I'll get regardless of what happens. Like unless you got a job in sales where you could earn commissions, like that was kind of appealing to me to be able to, the harder you work, the more you could get. But to just have this ceiling, like I always tell people, my ceiling is super high in stand-up comedy and the floor is on the ground. And I have been on the ground several times.
Yeah.
So I'm sure my parents were nervous, for me to, fail, not fail in the comedy, but just not, be able to support myself or something like that.
Yeah.
Or get on a casting couch, heaven forbid. Is that, oh, wait, hold on. Cut. My mom would always warn Nicholas, you got to be careful.
She was worried about you.
She was worried.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rightfully so. But I was fine. I got a good head on my shoulders.
Yeah. It's I was listening to a podcast the other day because I've talked about the same thing and I'm the exact opposite where I want a paycheck and benefits.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And I've always said I'm like very lowercase c conservative. Like I am cautious.
Okay.
Right. And I was listening to a podcast the other day and they called it an entrepreneurial mindset or an institutional mindset. And I thought, okay, so like I like working within institutions.
Gotcha.
And I
Yeah.
think I can do that well. I don't have a particularly entrepreneurial mindset. Doesn't mean I can't be entrepreneurial
Hey, you're
within
doing
the
this.
context of the institution,
Sure.
right? But I like the institution.
Yep.
Uh,
You're an indoor cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what my friend called it. He goes, you got to decide if you're an indoor or outdoor cat.
Yeah.
It's a different lifestyle.
There it is. So,
Yep, I can see it. Yeah, I think a lot of people, they prefer that comfort, and that to me that was always discomforting
yeah.
to feel like I was in some sort of box.
Yeah, I have a friend who has made it as a professional musician with a lot of scrapping.
Yeah.
And I just admire her so much. And I tell her that every time I talk with her. I'm just like,
He's never told me that one time. He has
I was
never said it
about to
one
say
time
that.
to me. And we've seen each other a decent amount, and he's never once said, "You know what? I'm proud of you."
I'm proud of you,
I
Nick.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm proud of you too.
All right, we're going to pivot a little bit here.
Okay.
We're doing this series at the church called Vocation and Calling. Vocation is a word we use in the church to talk about our sense of work, but it's more than work. It's sort of this sense of the work that God has called us to do, our life's work, and how that relates to our faith. And so, can you talk about how you understand your calling as a comedian?
Right. Yes, this is something that I do struggle with frequently. And I always carry my notebook here. I always carry my notebook and I write my jokes in this, but I also take it to church and I'll write thoughts based on the sermon and thoughts that like occur to me while I'm sitting there. And a lot of the times it is through the lens of what are you doing with comedy that, um, helps, I don't want to say bring people to God, but at the very least, not turn them away.
Hmm.
And because, the Bible is chock full of things to make fun of. I
Certainly.
mean, comedians have made livings off of doing that, and I never want to shy away from something. If I see something in a sermon or if I read something in a Bible that I think is silly, I want to be able to poke fun of it, but also let people know. And sometimes I went through a period where I would always say on stage. I went through probably about 3 to 6 months where every show I would say on stage that I'm a Christian, I believe in God. And I just let that would sink in for a moment just so that they could see this joke's coming through this lens
Hmm.
and that I'm not shying away from that. And I thought that there was power in doing that.
Yeah.
Just having somebody up there who's making fun of a lot of things, but also exclaim, oh, there's something also here that's very important
Hmm.
outside of me. I thought during that 3 to 6 months that that was enough. And I'm not sure if that is enough, but there was a period there where that gave me comfort being out at a nightclub where people are drinking and I'm not necessarily doing what I think maybe fulfills God's purpose for me.
Hmm. That's interesting. This will surprise you, but I had a Christian radio show in college,
Okay.
Christian rock,
Yep.
late 90s.
Sure. I've heard those
And
stations.
what's that?
I've heard those stations.
Yeah. Well, this is the college radio station.
Right, right,
It
right.
wasn't anything special, but it did get me in to meet with bands and interview them,
Sure.
which was cool. And one of the bands that I had a chance to interview was a band called Jars of Clay,
Yep.
which actually had a fair amount of success in the secular
That
market.
Jesus Freak.
Jesus Freak is DC Talk.
DC Talk. Jars of Clay, though, that's 40 Days, 40 Nights, that one?
That
Yeah,
was called
Flood.
Flood. Yep. Uh, anyways, when I had a chance to interview Jars of Clay, they had just toured with the Cranberries.
Okay.
They opened for the Cranberries. And they caught a bunch of flack from conservative Christian communities for touring with a secular band and playing in venues that sold alcohol or
Right,
bars.
right.
And I got a chance to interview them and was chatting with them. And I agreed with their perspective on this. They said, who needs to hear our message?
Right. Yep.
Is it the people that are already in the church or is it the people in the bars?
Mm-hmm.
And
Where was Jesus?
right,
Who was he talking to?
exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And so their career survived the criticism from these more conservative fundamentalist groups. But that was really, and that was, I think I was 21 when I sat down and interviewed them and chatted with them. And that really shifted my perspective significantly. I wasn't one of the ones criticizing them per se, but I brought that up because I
Sure.
had done my research before.
And you had
my
heard
interview.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really great to sit and chat with them about that. And the more I thought about that, I thought, yeah. And so bringing a spirit of the spirit of Christ, but the spirit of the divine, the spirit of caring and compassion into spaces that needs it is as much of a calling as me preaching from a pulpit on Sunday mornings to the choir or to those who are sitting there.
Did you hear that? He and I are the the exact same. We're the same qualifications. I am ordained over the internet. I don't know how long did seminary take you? Took me 15 minutes. I don't know if that says I'm better than him, but I think you guys know.
Did you perform a friend's wedding?
I
Is that why you
did.
got ordained?
Sister-in-law's wedding. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can see that. I love that you called it secular music. My wife called it secular music when I met her too, because she's homeschooled. And she goes, no, we were a normal homeschool family. We listen to secular music. I was like, normal people call that music. Nobody says secular. But yeah, I like that. I like Jars of Clay's idea there that, yeah, who needs to hear it?
Yeah.
People.
We just had a band play in the church in June out of Fort Collins. This is a folk band. They call their genre of music campfire folk.
Okay.
Not in any way on their website explicitly Christian per se. And they played the Flatwater Music Festival at Prairie Loft. They were
Okay,
the
yeah.
band that closed out Prairie Loft. But I reached out to them about 3 months before they came out, and I said, "Hey, you're closing Prairie Loft or to the Flatwater on Saturday night. Will you play my church on Sunday morning?"
Yeah.
And they wrote back immediately like, "We'd love to." I was like, "Have you done this before?" They said, "Not really." And I listened to their whole catalog.
Mm-hmm.
They have like 7 albums. And I said, "Here's 12 of your songs that I think would work really well in my context."
Uh-huh.
And they were touched that I had listened to their catalog, and they said, "We'd love to do this." And I said, listening to these lyrics, like there's a connection to the divine here. They said, "Oh, our faith is actually a big part of our music. We just don't explicitly say anything about it.
Sure.
And
Yeah, yeah.
we play mostly festivals and concerts and bars." He said, "But we gather for devotional before every show and pray together.
Yeah.
And like this is an important part. The fact that you picked up on that and want us to come play in your church, and the church loved them,
That's awesome.
loved them, and we're gonna have them back." And so yeah, I just the I do a summer sermon series. We're not doing it this year, but we call it the summer sermon song series, where I take a secular song
Uh-huh.
and then pull out the spiritual or faith-based messages in it, connect it to scripture, that sort of thing. And we called it Seeking the Sacred in the Secular. But the reality is that this division between sacred and secular is actually a false division, right?
Right,
Because as
right.
Presbyterians, we claim we believe in the providence of God, that God is in and above and through all things.
Mm-hmm.
God is present in all things. And that's why Presbyterians are not a religion that withdraws from the world. Because there are some religions that encourage their believers to,
Right, right. Flee to the mountains.
yeah, not be part of the world. Presbyterians instead are supposed to engage with the world and be part of the world, dating all the way back to John Calvin, not of Calvin and Hobbes, but who served on the city council in Geneva, right? As this priest, and helped get sewers put in there so that it stopped the Black Plague,
Yeah.
right? But he saw that as part of his Christian vocation, not that he was trying to make a theocracy out of the city council of Geneva.
Right, right,
He was
right.
trying to live out his faith by using city government to make people's lives better.
Right.
And our reformed idea of Christian vocation is the same way. Like we can live out our faith no matter what we're doing. And like my favorite theologian Karl Barth said, a garbage man can be a good Christian
Mm-hmm.
if they look at their work through the lens of their faith. Like I'm keeping my community clean and keeping disease from spreading, and so I'm living out my faith by collecting the garbage.
Right.
And most Presbyterian theologians would really emphasize that value of vocation, no matter what job it is that you're doing.
Okay.
That you're seeking to make the world a better place. You're seeking to help people connect with the divine and feel like they're loved, and that's an important part of faith.
But what about when I tell an off-color joke?
That's let's get to that.
Okay. Now, here comes the fire and brimstone.
Oh no! But the question that I had here, that I sent him these questions ahead of time, so I'm trying to keep to that a little bit.
Use them.
Yeah. But comedy can sometimes be seen as irreverent and edgy. So how do you navigate that space of being true to your voice and being true to the industry you work in,
Mhm.
while also being grounded in your values and your faith?
Sure. My line is always, would I say it in front of my mom? That's kind of my line. And I have found that hits right at the line of PG-13. I
But your mom can be kind of irreverent too
She
sometimes.
can be irreverent. I got a lot of my theatrics from my mom,
Indeed.
but I feel like PG-13 my mom can handle. R I would be embarrassed. And I have a lot of aunts and uncles that come to shows. One day my kids are going to listen, and probably one day before I'm ready for them to listen, they'll hear my stuff. They've already been on YouTube. They're like, "Dad, you're on YouTube." I'm like, "Well, don't watch the whole thing." Um, and
And I mean, I've sat through your show sitting next to your parents before, and I wondered, is this going to be an awkward situation?
right.
It wasn't.
Okay, it was all right.
So no, we were at
Okay.
it was the World Theater in Kearney,
Gotcha.
and your folks invited me, and we sat together, and I
It wasn't
thought,
too.
I've been to comedy shows where I don't want to be sitting next to members of my church and laughing because
Yeah,
this could be real. Like, have you seen Book of Mormon?
I have not, but
Okay,
I love
it
those
is
guys, the South Park guys.
very
Sure.
irreverent.
Yeah, yeah.
This is like this is not just R-rated irreverence. This is bordering occasionally on NC-17
Sure.
rated irreverence.
Blasphemous, I'm sure.
And I went with my pastor to see it.
Okay.
So this is when I was a seminary student, and I went with my pastor, and it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Was he,
She,
she
Mhm.
not into it?
she wasn't sure whether or not to laugh, and we
Okay.
were like both trying to. And it was a group from my church. It wasn't just
Sure.
me and the pastor. It was like we got tickets to Book of Mormon, and we went together.
Right, right.
But I was sitting right next to Cynthia, and I was like, I'm supposed to laugh. Is she laughing? And I think same thing was going through her head. Like, what am I supposed to laugh with?
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, sorry, that was a diversion. Tell me more about
The core of the question, can you say it in a different way? The core of the question is,
just how do you navigate working in an industry that is often raunchy, and that probably pushes you to that because that a whole lot of comedy goes that direction.
Mhm.
And navigate that with your own personal values and faith. I appreciated what you were saying about thinking about knowing your aunts and uncles and parents are watching, knowing your kids are going to hear your show. But how do you find that balance? And yeah,
the only thing I'm striving for is humor. And if that can be done, a lot of times I'll get done with the show. I always bill myself as PG-13. I feel like, I'm some of the humor is sophomoric. I'm going to talk about toilet things. I'm going to talk a little bit about sexual things within the confines of a marriage. Um, but if it's funny, then I'm on board. But there have been times where something is funny. I've written things where I think this is very funny, but it's not for me. I've written things that have been in this notebook, and that's why I'm terrified. If anybody ever finds this notebook, I went on I was a chaperone for my oldest son's field trip. It was an overnight field trip, and I had a very small book that I had in my pocket. It's it's a pocket-sized book that I carry around, write jokes in. And we were sitting around eating lunch on a field, and it fell out of my pocket, and I couldn't find it for like 20 minutes, and I was freaking out, and I was trying to find it because there are kids running all around, and finally I found it, and I went back to the other chaperones. I was like, whew. And they're like, "What's wrong?" And I go, "I lost my joke book. I was terrified that a kid was going to find it." And they're like, "What's the big deal?" I was like, "What's the big? I'd rather a kid find a gun on this field than my joke book." And they were all like, "Well, I wouldn't." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm obviously joking, but I think if you're getting a laugh and nobody is feeling bad, then hopefully there's no victim there, and laughter's a good thing. So I'll move forward with it. But if there's something darker, I think we've even seen rated R movies that I think would be fine within a church. I mean, isn't Passion of the Christ, is that R?
it is.
So I think there are things, I mean, the Bible is R rated.
Oh,
Bible,
Bible has some NC-17 passages.
sometimes my kids won't want to go to like a youth group or during the church, during the children's sermon. They won't want to go. They want to stay with us. And I've had our pastor in Los Angeles say things. I'm like, the kid's here.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Like, I don't want you talking about suicide with my kid sitting right here. I'm not even sure he knows what that is. And so it's one of those things that I am mindful of.
You said something else that I appreciate very much about your comedy is that is this I forget how you said it. Is this going to hurt someone, or is this going to is this at someone's expense?
Right.
And one of the things I've very much appreciated about your comedy is you poke fun,
Sure.
but you never take it too far, and you're rarely doing it at someone else's expense. Your wife maybe occasionally, but I'm
There's an argument
assuming
to be
she's
made.
on board with that.
He has veto jokes before.
But you run them by her before you use
Not
them.
necessarily before, but she'll eventually hear them. Or if they're starting to become a part of the act, I will run them by her, but not in a, never in like, is this okay? But she will tell me if it's okay.
Fair
There
enough.
have been jokes where she goes, "Hey, that one is not that funny, and I didn't like it." And I said, "That is clear to me. It is not
Yeah.
worth the battle."
But in general, you're rarely making humor at the expense of other people, and I really appreciate that about your humor. That um, I don't watch a ton of comedy, but when the comedian just won't let up on
Right.
particular people groups or individuals, I don't, I cringe
Sure.
and I feel bad for the person who's being mocked as opposed to finding it the least bit funny. And it has the opposite effect for me.
Yeah,
Even Letterman occasionally I thought would take gags too far.
sure. He became a grump.
Yeah.
Um, I try if I'm gonna punch at one side, I will typically turn and then punch at the other side.
Yeah.
And so I like to stand in the very middle of an issue and just make fun of both on each way. So hopefully one side doesn't feel like they've been disparaged too much.
Yeah.
And but I even have some jokes where people have trigger words that they hear and they think that I'm about to say one thing or that I've already said one thing
Mm,
just because they hear. And it's common in our society. If somebody says dog park and 100 people hear the word dog park, somebody just lost their dog. Somebody, just got a new dog, so they're excited. Somebody saw a terrible thing at a dog park. Somebody just can't wait to get back to their dog. There's all these different thoughts that people are bringing to those words. All I said was dog park, but everybody brought their own baggage. And so sometimes people will hear something. I have a joke that was on my last hour that was about blind people. It's actually, I've had blind people come up to me and say, "Thank you. That's exactly what I think." Those are the thoughts that go through my head. But then I've had people that aren't blind that have come up and say, "You shouldn't say that about blind people."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, I don't think you understood what I was doing."
No, and this is where I think what you do and what I do are very similar because when I'm preaching, I try to stay away from buzzwords that
Hmm.
will immediately, if I lose somebody because of a buzzword,
Yeah.
2 minutes into my sermon, then the next 15 minutes of my sermon is irrelevant because they're spinning on that
Hmm. Yep.
buzzword, even though that's not how I meant it, or that's, you're, yeah, that's, the dog park is a good way to describe that because that's a neutral thing, but you can
But it can.
help people approach it that way.
Do you have the similar thing? Comedians, will be on stage, and even if 99 people are laughing, there's one person that's sitting there with their arms crossed. Do you have a similar experience? Like when you're up there preaching, do you look out and you see a sour face and you go, "Come on"?
So you've sat in my church, most Presbyterians sit there with their arms crossed. Anyway,
Oh,
um,
come
but
on, guys.
but yes, no, I do, and there are yes, there. If I know that the message is resonating with a lot of folks, but there are folks that it's not resonating with, and they're physically showing me that during worship, it can have an effect
Well,
on what I'm saying, and yeah.
I feel like you'd be able to pick up on negative energy, but what about the positive? Like as a comedian, laughter is my gauge. But what's your gauge? Like what is a good audience member for you? Note taking,
I would
nodding
love if I had more interaction with my congregation
during the sermon.
during the sermon. Yeah.
In what
Have you ever been to a
in what
black church?
capacity? I mean, it's been years, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole academic discipline and a whole school of study around black preaching,
Uh-huh.
and the relationship between the preacher and the congregation.
Gotcha.
That is not what we do at the Presbyterian
We're not doing
Church.
cartwheels.
No,
Definitely.
but there is encouragement. There are warnings that the congregation will give to the preacher. Like, and it's an interaction. And in our culture, in predominantly white Presbyterianism, is very stoic
Not a lot of
and just
amens.
sit there and listen. I've been getting more amens
Getting some amen.
towards at the end of my service, and I've had a couple in the middle of sermons
Okay.
just in the last 6 months.
You like that?
I like it. I
Puffs you
think,
up.
but it throws off the people sitting next to the ameners,
Right.
and it anyways,
That amen was meant for me.
yeah. Well, and I don't use humor a ton in my sermons.
Hmm.
That's just not my style of preaching. But when I do have a joke in there, it's helpful when people actually laugh at it.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because when it falls flat, you're like, oh, I won't try that one again.
If you're only trying a couple every 40 minutes, that's yeah. If they fall flat, that hurts.
Yeah,
As a comedian, when I'm trying new stuff, it doesn't hurt me
yeah,
because I know they can be weird thoughts.
yeah.
If it's a tried and true thing, and then I say it and it gets nothing, I think, oh, what was that? But there's another one coming.
Yeah, fair enough. Talk to me about if you have any thoughts on the spiritual power of laughter. Can comedy be healing? Can it be prophetic? Like think the Old Testament prophets, can it speak towards issues? Do comedians have license to say things that pastors or politicians might not? So that those are two different questions, but or maybe they're related.
Right. Prophetic, I don't know that it could be prophetic, although you watch George Carlin now. He's been dead for a decade, and it feels like his stuff's more relevant now than it's ever been,
Yeah,
just politically. But definitely spiritually, the laughter, the levity and just taking people away from their problems. That definitely is a powerful thing that I think is a big reason why people come to comedy is to just like let's leave everything else out here and just somebody take me away for an hour and a half.
yeah,
And I love that I get to do that for people. I want, so many times after shows, people come up to me, I needed that. We just had a death in the family. We needed that. That was the first time he's laughed in 6 months.
yeah.
And you go, you feel good about that. You think that's great. I was able to give them that, that Foxworthy always said it was the pressure release valve
Mm.
that got a little bit of the tension out.
Although even in some of your bits, you talked about sort of playing the middle and
Uh-huh.
poking fun at both sides. I really think most of the country is living in the middle.
Yes.
70, 80% of the country
Mm-hmm.
looks at both sides and says, what's going on?
Yep.
And you're able to name that in a way for people, and then particularly if you're poking at both sides, and that's what I've observed and experienced in your comedy. That's I mean that's a form of just saying, hey, we actually share more in common
Yep.
than we disagree.
Right. It's unfortunate that divisiveness is what gets the clicks now. It's people are gravitating toward divisiveness and extremes.
Yeah,
So we don't care. We want to see the best of this or the worst of this. Or, we don't care if something is right down the middle, which is where, at least when I was growing up, it felt like that's what, conservative politics was kind of just right up the middle, just hitting the 200-yard drive right down the middle. Like we're not making waves. It's not crazy. And now it's people only, it's clickbait. If you're not extreme on one side or the other, then who cares?
right.
Why even pay attention to it? Like nobody's clicking on a headline that just says family went to the park and all was well. Like nobody does that. Like millions of people go to Disney World every single year, but nobody clicks to look at their pictures or hear their story. But one kid gets eaten by an alligator there, and click, 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 click. Like that's all we care about. So I see a lot of people leaning in to that,
Yeah,
but it's put us in a weird place.
yeah, and I think this church strives to hold that middle space. In fact, I just signed a book contract, which will be coming out next year,
Nice.
called Purple Church, Red State: Finding
Okay.
Common Ground in an Age of Polarization.
Yeah.
And it just tells the story of how the church can find that space, and how this church, for the last 8.5 years I've been here, has sought to find that common ground.
Hmm.
For us, that's grounded in Christ, right? And in serving Christ by serving our neighbors.
Hmm.
And so the bulk of the stories in there are about just that, just being a source of good and love and light in our community and letting the political differences fall away as we seek to love our neighbors.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, but that's where most people are, and I think that's what resonates with people.
Yeah.
If you can actually get their attention, right?
Right. Right. They'll understand they feel that way, and people I don't think give other people enough credit for thinking things through. We often look at each other's political differences or their taste in music or taste in movies. They go, "What? Why would you like that? Why?" But it's like that's another person over there. They've had their own experience, and then they've informed their decisions based on that experience. Like, who cares? Like, I've lived in Nebraska, going to church. I've lived in California going to church. I've lived in these crazy different places, and I've met people that I agree with on both sides. And I go, well, guys, we're all just, want what's best for our friends and family and all that. And yeah, I think it's good to have what I would call like some kind of home base where people can go back to and be centered and realize, oh, this is that thing. Yeah, you may veer off here and veer off there, but there's always this thing that comes back to, I don't know if this is getting off topic, but we have a lot of friends that, whether or not they're raising their kids with religion or not. And I had always heard, well, it's good to give somebody a basis. Give them something to start from. And I used to think that that was kind of dumb. Like, well, you don't just need a place to start from. Like, they could end up anywhere. But I think more and more that resonates as true. That it's like, no matter how far I go in comedy, or if I tend to push something too far or something, I've got this thing right here that I may not always be standing on it, but there's something over there that I can look to as like a base, a starting point where I'm like, am I too far away from this? Have I gone too far out to sea? And I don't know. I'm rambling.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right, we'll start to wind down here.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone listening who feels called to a creative or unconventional career but is unsure about whether they can live their faith doing that?
Well, I mean, I think no matter what you do, whether it's in the arts or something creative, I think there's all kinds of ways to lose your faith or lose sight of what's important. So I would not be concerned of it from that standpoint. I think there are plenty of people doing it well in every field. So you just kind of follow in their footsteps and just hold on to your faith however you can. Like I never considered that that was a pitfall.
Okay,
I don't know.
that's great. I'm glad to hear that. To me, that tells me that this church did a good job in terms of teaching you that you can continue your faith in whatever career you're going into.
Right.
And so, yeah, it would have been, yeah,
No, this was a great church growing up, despite the the mass casualties that I assume have happened in the attic and the basement. This place is creepy in the basement in certain places. But no, this was a great place, and a lot of good people here helped inform me. I probably would not be just PG-13 if it weren't for this place, and seeing people that I not only could understand but respect
yeah,
being here.
yeah, cool. I have a rapid fire segment.
Okay.
I've not done this before. This is because normally our podcast takes a different format, but you have the questions in front of you, so it's not really quite a rapid fire segment. But let's go. Ready? Best
Okay.
thing about being a comedian.
Hearing laughter.
Okay. Most embarrassing moment you've had on stage.
This is not fast, but it was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I get into jokes by asking people, "Oh, are you guys married? Do you have kids?" Things like that. And there was a couple there that had lost a child,
Ah,
and they said it. And normally, if tragedies like happen, like don't say it at a but I asked, and they said it, and so I go, "Okay, well, keep trying." And they go, "We did. She was pregnant. She's having a miscarriage right now." And I had 20 minutes left, and to go try and make comedy after that, that was I don't know if that's embarrassing, but looking back, I'm embarrassed that like I had to go through that. But time moves on.
so have you changed the format of your show?
No,
You're not
I have
in the
nothing.
middle
I
of it?
have nothing.
Because crowd work, yeah, you never know what's going to happen with crowd work, right?
You don't know, and we've had tragedy get regurgitated back to me, and I'm able to make something of it. This time, I just wasn't.
Yeah.
And so for 20 minutes, it was just the most like pithy laughter, just nothing. And I was like, okay.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
I know that's hard.
I've got it on video. I've thought over and over about posting it. People like watching train wrecks.
All right. Favorite Bible verse or one that's stuck with you over the years?
Um, my aunt, well, the one that is on a plaque next to my workstation is commit to the Lord, whatever you do, and your plans will be successful, which I believe is a proverb.
Hmm.
Is that right? But my favorite verse, and I'm not going to be able to quote it to you, is Genesis 1:2. And it's
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with. No, that's John 1.
the Spirit over the deeps.
Damon preached on that the week before you were here.
Is that right?
He did.
Yeah, here it is. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. That just, oh, even though it's right in the beginning, it just always like struck me as that's like the opening of a movie.
Mm.
Like that's really cool the way they described that. And my wife painted it for me one time because I was like, that's my favorite.
Yeah, Damon and I both love that because the Hebrew word for the Spirit of God
Uh-huh.
is the same word for breath
Okay.
or wind.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime you read breath, wind, or spirit in the Old Testament, and actually in the New Testament too, because it's pneuma, in Hebrew it's ruach, but thinking about God's spirit or breath or wind and the different ways that it appears in the Old Testament. So next
Mm-hmm.
time you're reading your Old Testament and you come across spirit or wind or breath,
Okay.
it's the same word, and it's cool that it starts with that, and then God's spirit or the wind, and then in Genesis 2, God breathes the breath of life into Adam into Adam,
Mm-hmm.
same word. So the spirit that's hovering over the waters at creation is the
Same
same
thing that
spirit or breath
became the breath.
that God breathes into humanity. That's kind of cool.
It's even cooler now.
There you go. Cool. Something people would be surprised to learn about you. They learn you were a debater.
Um,
They probably knew that.
I don't know if this is surprising. When old men are sad, that's the only thing that'll choke me up. Maybe something with my kid, but I don't cry very often. But if there's an old man sad, I get sad.
Hmm.
Not old women, I don't care.
You kind of could have just said not old women. You didn't have to do the second half of that.
I do not care about you old bags. Weep all you want.
All right. If you had to preach a sermon, what would your title be?
Our pastors preached about it, but I like leaning into doubts.
Hmm.
My wife hates that about me.
Mm.
If we're talking about something scriptural or biblical and I say any doubt, she's like, what's going on? Who are you? But I lean into that. I like it. I think it's normal to have questions and doubts. And I think that shows that you're being good and you're active and you're, pursuing faith rather than just being kind of staunch. Here's my faith and I am unwavering. I think in my experience, that's not truthful.
Yeah,
So I don't mind leaning into it and I don't like prodding. And if I've got a question, I don't mind asking it.
that's your Presbyterian upbringing. I can tell you that.
Is that
And
right?
I know the pastors who raised you, and I can tell you that that's directly a result. Yeah, I think the Presbyterian Church really, on a whole, encourages questions,
Mm-hmm.
does not attempt to instill certainty, but opens the space for the questions and encourages doubts and invites those. That's probably how that's you probably had that experience in confirmation, whether you remember it or not,
Mm-hmm.
of an openness to questions. Not a confirmation wasn't you have to learn this catechism and you have to learn these things in order to be confirmed, but instead you need to start asking these deeper questions as your faith becomes your own.
Yeah. If
Uh,
you're not digging deep, you're going to just have shallow faith.
yeah, yeah. But that Presbyterianism put its stamp on you, Nick. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to share with us?
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
And we can cut it here. That's the end of the podcast, or we can continue. I did not send these to him ahead of time, so
Okay.
it's fine if you don't feel like answering them. But this, I wrote this in one of my notebooks the other day when we were sitting in a sermon, and I was just wondering, why is it important to make the distinction that Jesus is God?
Hmm.
Why can't it just be two different people?
Yeah. So that's Trinitarian theology,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably some of the most confusing theology.
Always.
And here's where I've come to peace with my Trinitarian theology.
Okay.
Um, it was either Anselm or Augustine. I think it was Anselm, one of the patriarchs of the church. wrote a book called Summa Theologica, the sum of all theology.
Okay.
But this was like in 4 or 500 AD.
There wasn't that much
There's
to
been a
go
lot
into.
of theology.
Sure. Yeah.
And the whole book is written as a dialectic where it poses a question
Hmm.
or a point of contention,
Right.
it disputes it, and then it seeks to resolve it,
All right.
just like a debate case.
Yeah.
I loved that book
Really?
because I was a debater, the Summa Theologica. It's either Anselm or Augustine, and my listeners are going to be very embarrassed that I don't know, but I'm
Well, just
embarrassed.
edit it and
But that's
then make
fair.
it look like you got
That's
it.
fair. I do very little editing. We're like a total one take
Right. No, it's
process.
easier that way.
Anyways, so but in the Summa Theologica, it proposes the Trinity.
Okay.
It proposes a counter argument, and all the rest of the Summa Theologica comes to these very conclusive decisions about articles of theology and faith.
Hmm.
You get to the part on the Trinity, and the response, the resolution is the Trinity is a mystery we can never fully understand.
Okay.
And if that guy couldn't figure it out, I feel like I'm in good company not being able to fully explain it or figure it out.
Okay.
The bottom line for me as to why they've got to be the same entity is just that the nature of God and the nature of Jesus are one and the same.
Hmm.
They are just different manifestations. So God is the creator and Jesus is the redeemer. But it's all about creation. God created creation, Jesus redeems creation, but it's all about loving creation. And so the nature of God is love. The nature of God in Jesus Christ is love. God created creation and us as created beings in the image of God in love. And Jesus redeems us, created beings, in love. And so it's the love is the nature that supersedes God, the Creator, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. That is love.
Okay.
So that theme runs through all, but then it's different faces or different facets of a diamond, if you will, of that love. God is the creator, Jesus is the redeemer, the Holy Spirit is the sustainer. It sustains us in that love. It is what is in our hearts and our minds and helps us move forward in our faith because God created us, Jesus has redeemed us, and the Holy Spirit sustains us. That's the best I got.
If I
Being put on the
don't,
spot.
sure. No, no, that was great. If I don't care if that's true, is that a deal breaker? Is that a problem?
For most Christian religions, it would be
Okay.
because affirming a belief in the Trinity, the Trinitarianism, is a core tenet of any Orthodox Christian faith.
Okay.
Okay. How much you have to believe in it and how central it is to your faith is not dictated to you.
Okay.
But at least acknowledging, yeah, that Trinity thing is a part of my faith. I believe there is a God, the Creator. I believe there's a Jesus, the Redeemer. I believe
Right.
there's a Spirit, the Sustainer. And three in one, one in three, I see them as three separate entities, but acknowledge there's a oneness to them, or I see them as one entity, but acknowledge there's a threeness to them. That would generally be sufficient. But most most Christian religions, whether they're evangelical, conservative, and fundamentalist, or mainline, or even like super duper progressive, woo woo
Yeah.
would say Trinitarian, at least an acknowledgement of the Trinitarian theology is an important cornerstone of
Okay.
Christian belief.
All right. I'll give it another look. I'll read the Summa Theologica. Um, okay. Last question. And this was posed to me by another comedian who grew up in the church. His dad was a preacher, and he recently said that he no longer believes.
Mhm.
And it was because he could not figure out why faith was a virtue. Like, what's the big deal?
Hmm.
Why require faith? Why not just come out and be like, here it is?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because like you look at people who have really wonderful spirits and who volunteer in their communities and make
Yep.
a difference. Even organizations like the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club, how different are they from a church, right? The Rotary, their motto at least used to be service above self.
Right.
That sounds an awful lot like a church.
Yeah.
The difference is our motivation for why we serve, right? And Rotarians are serving out of altruism. Some of them are serving out of a sense of faith.
Hmm.
But the service that comes out of the church, the simplest way I can explain it is that we have received this grace, and our lives are a response of gratitude to the grace we have received.
Okay.
And so everything we do in life is a response of gratitude to the grace we have received. And that's why faith is important, because I'm living a life of gratitude in response to the grace I've received. It's such a core part of my identity. It doesn't mean that I can't, somebody who doesn't acknowledge or accept the grace they've received can't do really amazing things. And I doesn't mean I can't partner with them
Right.
and be their friend, and that we can't find common cause on a ton of stuff. And then we can't work together, and then I can't love them. It just, my motivation for living the life I live is the gratitude that I try to live because of the grace that I have received in God.
Okay.
So is faith a virtue? It is for me. This could lean very heavily into deeper conversations about universalism and things like that. Somebody who says, I don't think faith is a virtue, but they go about living their life in a way that reflects all the kingdom values that we talk about, the values of the kingdom of God. Do I think God is still big enough in the end to bring them into the fold? Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
I would agree.
And who am I to question God's bigness and God's capacity for that?
You know, you threw out a word there, love. Can I still love them, even though that, as a preacher, I feel like that would be a word that comes off your tongue frequently and fairly easily. Does your wife feel like the word's watered down when you say it to her?
That's a good question. I should ask her that. This is a limit of the English language.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough words to describe different kinds of love. And almost every other language on earth has multiple ways to describe love.
Okay.
We're limited. And so I love pizza. I love my dog. I love my wife. And I love God. That's 4 different kinds of love.
Yeah.
And
Pizza's paramount.
well, if it's a good pizza, it's pretty far up on that list. And so I think that that's the challenge in English is that, so it's about context. Then,
Okay.
right. And when I look at my wife and tell her that I love her, that's a different kind of love necessarily. Like I love you, Nick. I love you as a brother in
I
Christ.
appreciate it.
But I don't love you in the same way I love my wife. And you know the context of that.
Sure.
Me sitting here is a different, if she was sitting here and I said I love you to her and I love you to you, you would notice that context difference.
All right.
If we were speaking Greek, I could say, I filioque you, man, which is a brotherly love.
Okay, yeah.
And I would say to her, honey, I eros you, I erotic love you, or I agape, I unconditionally love you.
Sure.
Unfortunately, English doesn't give us those options.
There are
So,
conditions here. It's under the condition I do his podcast.
well, that was part of it.
All right. I like it. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I appreciate your answers to those. I liked your faith is a virtue one, especially.
They're good questions. Yeah. All right. I'm going to do a little ending piece here. We'll see how this goes. So, friends, that was my conversation with Nick Hoff, a comedian, Hastings native, and fellow Pres kid. Fellow First Pres kid here. I loved hearing how Nick sees his work as a calling, how humor can become a kind of healing or bringing of people together, or holy work in a world that desperately needs that and desperately needs joy, which I think Nick is bringing through his comedy and his art. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Please leave a review, subscribe, and maybe I'll even talk Nick into sharing this on his channels, which would give it a lot more. And then stay tuned for more conversations about vocation and calling in this series. We'll be talking with other folks in other jobs that may or may not be directly connected to the faith, at least that we see. Ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things in response to God's call. Thanks for listening. And remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, you're loved by God. You're called to love others. Until next time, take care.
First thoughts, please share with us your first thoughts on Scripture.